Good morning, students. This is continuation of your chapter 2. We have finished with a bad time for Russian workers. Now, next is the incident happened in a Sunday that is known as Bloody Sunday. In 1905, on one Sunday, the procession of workers led by Father Gapov, they reached in the Winter Palace of Tsar in order to present a petition. Now, they were attacked by the police and the Cossacks. Who were the Cossacks? Cossacks, a group of East Slavic people, the members of democratic and semi-military communities in Ukraine and southern Russia. In this incident, many workers were killed and wounded. This incident is known as Bloody Sunday. Now it started with a series of events took place in 1905 that is known as 1905 revolution. Now trend of strikes spread all over the country, universities closed down and students walked out complaining about the lack of civil liberties. Doctors, lawyers, engineers and other middle class workers, they established union of unions and they demanded a constituent assembly. Now during the 1905 revolution, Tsar allowed the creation of an elected consultative parliament that is known as Duma. Large number of trade unions and factory committees, they made up of factory workers, also existed for short time. Severe restrictions were placed on political activity. Now what was the reaction of the Tsar? The Tsar dismissed the first Duma within 75 days and re-elected second Duma within 3 months. The Tsar did not want any questioning of his authority. Now the First World War in 1914 started between two European alliances, Germany, Austria and Turkey, and France, Britain and Russia. The war fought at a global level. Now, defeat of Russian army was shocking and demoralizing. Russian army lost badly in Germany and Austria between 1914 and 16. They were over 7 million Russian casualties by 1917. As they retreated, the Russian army destroyed crops and buildings to prevent the enemy from being able to live life. So it led to over 3 million refugees in Russia. What was the impact of the war? The war had a severe impact on industry. Country was cut off from other supplies of industrial goods by the Germans. By 1916, railway lines began to break down. Able-bodied men were involved in the war. It led to acute labor shortage. Large supplies of grain were sent to feed the vast army. Food scarcity became common, which sometimes led to riots in bread shops. Now the February Revolution in Petrograd. In the winter of 1917, conditions of the capital, Petrograd, was very serious. The layout of the city seemed to emphasize the division among its people as workers' quarters and factories were on right bank of Neva River, while Winter Palace and official building on the left. In February 1907, there was acute shortage of food in Russia, which was made the life of workers very, very difficult. Parliamentarians were opposed to the Tsar's desire to dissolve the Duma. On 22nd February, lockout took place at a factory on the right bank of the river Neva. Next day, 50 factories called a strike in sympathy. In many factories, women who also led the way to strikes on 23rd February 1917. So this day came to be called International Women's Day. Now the suspension of Duma. demonstrating workers crossed from the river Neva and the quarters to the center of the capital, and official buildings were surrounded by workers. All the demonstrators dispersed by the evening, but they came back again on 24th and 25th. Government tried to control the situation and called out the cavalry and police. Now the Duma was suspended on Sunday, 25th February. Now events subsequent to suspension of the Duma. Politicians spoke out against the suspension of Duma, number 1 point. Number 2, demonstrators returned in force to the streets of the left bank of the river Neva on 26th February. On the 27th February, the police headquarters were attacked and damaged. And 4th point, workers demonstrated in the streets, raising slogans about better hours, bread, wages and democracy. Next point, the government once again called cavalry, but it refused to fire on the demonstrators. An officer was shot at the barracks of a regiment. 3 other regiments revolted and voted to join the striking workers. Now the cavalry soldiers joined the workers and jointly formed a Soviet or council in the same building where the Duma met. This was the Petrograd Soviet. Today only up to this much. Next we will continue in the next class. Thank you.